there may be coughing. I'm just getting over the virus, so it's been an interesting couple of weeks, so bear with me. Rose here from Grow Remote. I don't know how many of you might know about Grow Remote, but we're an Irish nonprofit. We started as a kind of a group of us that believed in the power of remote working to enable people and communities about 2 years ago, and then we incorporated last year. So to date, we're in 17 countries, totally unintended, because our focus has been Ireland all the way. And we've 120 chapters across those countries, and it's 100% voluntary to date. We're waiting on funding from Enterprise Ireland to kind of put a bit more of a foundation on ourselves, but it's kind of, I still think it's pretty inspiring what you can do with a group of people who care, which is exactly what you guys are about. So thank you all, and like amazing stuff. I'm going to talk quickly about an island that some of you might have come across before. Anybody that's based in Ireland might have seen some ads from Three about this island off the north coast of Donegal called Arranmore. And I will have to admit, I thought I was pretty familiar with Donegal before this, and Tracy, my co-founder, used to be mentioning Arranmore, and I thought, am I mishearing her? Is she mispronouncing Oranmore? I was like, no, she's also from Galway, she couldn't do that. And I learned about this island, this amazing part of the country that I'd never known about. And basically what had happened was they had started to notice, now in the very poetic way of putting it, they weren't hearing the sound of children as much on the island. And what that translated into was there was less kids in the local school. And the concern then is that the school was going to close down. So what could they as a community do about it? And it just happens that, you know, there's a group of people there that are just serious action takers and community people. And they came together, and already some of them had been doing some remote work. And there was a possibility to put together a co-working space. And I mean, like, I'm making this sound so easy. They have obviously put years and years of work into this. But they get to their co-working space together, and then they put together a partnership with Three. So they go from this, like, not being able to hear children as much on the island, the school potentially closing down. They put a huge amount of blood, sweat and tears into it, get the co-working space up, promote them, which they actually got the local community, the kids, to be involved in the naming of. And there's a whole Irish thing there, and I'm not 100% sure what it is. My Irish would be great. And they have this amazing connection then with Three, which is giving them speeds that a lot better than I'm getting in my local town. And then they told their story to the world. So they sent an open letter to the US and Australia explaining who they were. And I'm like, I still haven't made it up there yet, but I'm seeing the pictures and I really can't wait to visit. And it just looks so beautiful. And to be able to get those sorts of facilities in that sort of a setting, yeah, sign me up, please. They have got over 4,000 applications to move to the island. The problem they now have is there's not enough houses there. But to go from what they had, they used storytelling to reach out to people and explain what was there. And now they have the opportunity to build up the population on the island again and make sure that this issue of the schools closing down isn't going to happen. And for me, like, that's one of the most powerful stories we've seen within the remote working community in Ireland, is what they've managed in Arranmore. Similar in Valencia Island, like, you know, obviously we see a lot of the islands. The islands seem to be, you know, they understand that they need to take action, otherwise they don't survive. And with Valencia as well, they did similar, where they used a thing called the town tasters. And again, they said, like, this is what's available in Valencia. This is the quality of life you can have here. They story told. And then they had 3 new families move there. And 3 new families moving to an island like Valencia is just such an amazing change, and makes their local economy so much more robust. And I hope, like, I've kind of shown that, like, by telling the story of that island, it can kind of help people better understand the potential of remote work, of anything. Like, storytelling helps us, especially where an idea either might challenge people in their beliefs or how they understand the world to be, or if an idea is quite complex, it can really help to get across what that is about. And something I've learned over the years is, like, you know, if you're trying to get partners on board for a project, storytelling helps to really get them to understand where you're coming from. Also with storytelling, we're not assuming as much that the others have the same thought processes as us or the same context. So you're getting to paint a much clearer picture. And as well, if you're talking about complex ideas or ideas that challenge people, if you story tell, and they don't necessarily agree with you or fully understand where you're coming from, but the story is engaging enough, people will stick with you long enough to hear you. And I know myself, I've seen that where I might have held a certain idea on something. I've watched a TED Talk or an interview with somebody, and because they story tell so well, it's particularly just at the start, it's enough for me to go, oh, I never looked at it that way. And then I'm more inclined to stay and listen or read. And that's the power of it. And that can be extremely powerful from a business context. It can be extremely powerful from a community context. It's actually shown that businesses and communities that are more deliberate in how they storytell have a lot more credibility and trust around them. And that's just so powerful and useful for us all. But yeah, so like, I think in Ireland we have a big tradition of storytelling, and well, sorry, in most cultures really, but we're familiar here in Ireland with storytelling cultures across the world. There's a reason why they were there. It was just such a good way to impart knowledge, and you're also engaging people, and it can be fun, it can be emotive, and if you can help build feelings around something, again, people are far more likely to engage and far more likely to stop and listen to you. Some of the other stories that across our community, there was one gentleman whose mother was very, very ill. So he was based up in Dublin, very, very ill back at home, was finding it hard to get up and down to see her. And, you know, through being involved in Grow Remote, able to find out about different jobs, and then able to move back down home and having the same sort of salary, the same type of work, working, you know, in the roles that he wanted to, but being able to be there and home for his family. And you know, another one that's probably a lot of people will see, but one of the guys said to us probably a month or so ago that he feels like remote work is a superpower for him, and the superpower being that he can drop his kids to school in the morning and pick them up in the evening. But I feel like using that kind of language and painting those kind of pictures just helps to make it more powerful. We've also noticed that, like, we could talk on a very intellectual basis about great salaries and, you know, to people about remote work, particularly people who are not familiar with remote work. But if we tell them the story of, you know, Mary, who went from working in the local shop to now she's working with Shopify for a couple of years, she's on 40,000 now, and she no longer has to commute, and again, she's able to drop the kids in the morning and maybe somebody else has to pick them up. When they hear a story like that in real human terms, it makes the whole thing far more real for them. And I think that can be, again, for whether it's going to be a community thing, a business thing, you're trying to bring partners on, different stakeholders, it is just super powerful. One little tactic that I've come across recently, like doing research on running good virtual meetings, is 60-second rule. Not sure, I think this might have been the Harvard Business Review or something I read this in. And they were saying within the first 60 seconds, and this could be with your own team or an external group, tell a story in the first 60 seconds to capture people and get some emotion into it. And then they're far more likely to be engaged and stick with you. And then also throw out some problems that they can solve. So here's some problems that you can solve throughout this. We need people to understand that remote work is an opportunity for them. And that's one of the things that we're working on in Grow Remote. But there can never be too many people doing this. We also need people to know that they are real, actual jobs, because there's still not necessarily clear understanding that remote work is different to, say, digital nomadism. Digital nomads are fantastic. You know, I think it's a wonderful way of life. Or even some of the less legitimate sort of businesses. And even the ability for them to see themselves in that role. Also, we need more businesses themselves to see the positive potential of remote work, how it can help with business continuity. And again, in storytelling, we can really help to show case studies of other businesses that have done that already, and that they can see themselves in that role. And one of the biggest challenges across remote work is for management. Management are often maybe afraid of how they're going to, especially, you know, if they're not coming already from a remote background. Obviously the situation we all find ourselves in currently, but even when the dust settles again, managers find it particularly difficult to wrap their heads around, how do I now manage remotely? If we can help managers to, first of all, understand that it's possible, actually to see the benefits of that, and then how do they upskill and change and help their teams to do the same, that will be hugely powerful. So there will be a few different challenges I would put to you guys, that if you can answer some of those, it will be so powerful. And I'm sure you're already working on lots of amazing stuff. I can't wait to hear more. I hope that gives a little bit of inspiration around things. I know myself, again, in hearing the very, very human stories of how remote work has changed lives. For me, I chose to move to Ballina in County Mayo. Like about 4 years back, we sat down and we said, okay, we went shopping around Ireland for where we wanted to live. And because I work remotely, I could do that. You can see my wonderful, like I have lots of Post-its and my whiteboards in my little office here at home. And I like to do some kayaking. There's really good kayaking here. There's a beautiful forest. There's a lovely sense of community. And because of remote work, I was able to do that. And again, day by day, as I hear what's happening across our community, it fills me up. So there's also the power of stories to do that. And that can be, again, for yourself, for your team, and for people out there, your users, your community. There's huge power in stories. Guys, thank you so very much. It's really funny. Porrick and Sophie reached out to me days before I got sick, and it's amazing the rate that everybody has been moving at. I have to say, it's keeping me going to see what's being done. Humans pulling together is just, I'm getting a bit emotional here now. But thanks again for having me. If anyone wants to reach out, you'll find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Grow Remote. Or if you want to reach out to me, I'm Remote Rose on Twitter. And thank you so much.
Yay!